Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another online session of Meet the Director in connection with the 25th International Film Festival of Kerala. Today we have with us Mr. Senna Hegde, director of the film Thinkalazhcha Nishchayam. The engagement is on Monday, which is being featured in the Malayalam Cinema Today section of 25th IFFK. Senna and his colleagues, his crew members could come down to more than one location, which we are very happy about. And we are going to have a brief chat about just catching up and discussing the film. Senna, thank you for joining this online session. Yeah, let's just get started.
Thanks, Hegde. I mean, it's. I'm happy to be here, and we have had a good run with the festival. I think we finished our last show yesterday in Palakkad.
Yes.
It's pretty good. I couldn't make it, but some members of my team were there, and from what I hear, it was a pretty good show. So, very pleased, and once again, very humbled to be part of IFFK. That too in its 25th edition. So,
I just watched your film, just fresh out of the screening. And I couldn't work. I mean, I wish I could watch it, more peacefully. And but
right.
It's real fun. First of all, congratulations on achieving this feat. I think it's a very cool and connecting, and it has different layers. Even though it seems as a like a very interesting, fun-filled drama. Happening in one of the not so city-ish or townish places in Kerala. Especially, I will come to that. But I really like the film. It's light-hearted, but it has different layers, and it's an overall it's an achievement, and I congratulate you on that.
Thank you.
To begin with, I think I would like to ask with I think you also, I mean, I want this to be on a kind of a Malayalam English thing.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so ഈ ഒരു പ്രൊമൈസസിലേക്ക് ഈ ഒരു thematic പ്രൊമൈസസിലേക്ക് എങ്ങനെയാണ് എത്തിയത് ഒരു I mean I can see that the seed of the story or the ഒരു the deep layerലുള്ള story it is very I mean clear, but how did you arrive at this the script, this thematic premises and everything?
Sure. I mean, basically, it's the core thought of the film. That was basically, from real life incidents that's happening in and around, my place. There's quite a few incidents like this has happened. There are few people who I know, it has happened in their family. So the core thought was always there. And, it's like, you can't take any one of the sides, because at the end of the day, I think, having watched the film, I mean, you can't fault either of them. At the same time, you can fault both of them, and it's very, very individual situation that you can literally pinpoint and say, this is why this happened. So it's a very common incident here. I'm sure it happens in probably rest of India also, because as you see, you take the subject and you root it anywhere else in India, it could still work, because at the end of the day, it's a core family and values and what happens in a family. I mean, I think it's applicable to pretty much everyone in rest of the India. So I think that's the universal aspect of this film, which probably people enjoyed while watching because they could connect to it. Secondly, these incidents become quite known, and quite the news spreads around in smaller towns. I come from a small town called Kanjangad, which is in somewhere in between Mangalore and Kannur, in Kasaragod. And these sort of incidents are very, very common here. So that's where the original idea, the core thought came from. I started writing it with a colleague, and then as and when I started writing the screenplay, it sort of occurred to me that most of the incidents are happening in and around one house. And that's where the whole thought of how about we make the whole movie within one house, but yet sort of the audience don't feel that they're only in that area. And that's when I decided, okay, let me place it in one particular place. And this was pre-COVID, so we weren't trying to sort of do this film because of COVID restrictions or anything else. We wrapped up the shoot about 3 months before the whole COVID thing broke out. So that's how we decided to place the whole movie. And then the challenge was primarily for Sriraj, who was my DOP, who had a very challenging task of sort of making sure that people don't get bored or claustrophobic within one particular area. So there are a few challenges like that, but the core thought came from observations.
Great, thank you. Yeah. So I want to come to the actors. Like I could see that. I mean, many faces are some faces are familiar. We have seen them in some other good movies and some other films. But I'm not sure about this. But I'm asking, does there were some non-actors, like I mean, people whom you have found from the locality, or who might not have like had a experience in acting in a film or something, because I felt that in quotations, like non-actors, even though did a great job. I mean, everybody, it's an ensemble cast and ensemble performance. I mean, everyone is looking like, feel at all like that they are actors. The children and everyone. I mean, even the people in and around. Actors.
Hello.
Am I? Is it breaking?
Yeah, it was kind of correct, but I kind of got the question. I understood what you're saying, but though I kind of lost bits and pieces, but I could sort of put it together. So the casting was a huge thing for us. I mean, when we decided to make this film, the film took different routes to finally arrive in Kanyanad. We had initially decided to do it in a couple of other ways, but finally, my heart was saying that I need to place it in Kanyanad and make this movie, using local slang and that sort of stuff. So finally, once we came to that decision, then the next big challenge for us was casting. Because first of all, I do all my movies with sync sound, so they have to speak the Kanyanad slang. So that was the first criteria, except for a couple of roles, as you see in the film, where people are not from the area. For that, we found the right people. And it was easier to find those people. Whereas for the roles which required Kanyanad slang, it was quite challenging. So luckily, I through a friend, I got to meet Rajesh Madhavan, who was who's an actor himself, who's probably a prospective director in the coming days. And he has had a huge amount of experience working with the big wigs of Malayalam industry, especially people like Dilesh and Ashik Prabhu and those sort of things. So I took his help, and once he came on board, I think things started going smoothly. He kind of handled and led the whole audition process. And of course, me and Sriraj were, part of it, but we kind of let him be in charge of it. It was quite a bit of a trial and error till, even when the shoot began, there were certain roles which we could not fill, and we kept, switching and swapping, in a certain roles in the film. They started off doing another role, and then we figured out that's not right for them, and then we switched him, sort of swapped a couple of roles. But eventually it all came together. Casting was a huge challenge, but I think looking at the reaction that we've been getting from audience and also from the industry, the film personalities, I think that's where we hit the bullseye. I think no one had absolutely any issues with in terms of casting. I think we got every character perfectly right. And like I said, the huge credit goes to Rajesh for this, and also the actors. They came on board, and I think within days they were it almost felt like they're all part of the family, and they've known each other. A lot of them knew each other because we casted everyone from in and around Kanyanad, Payyanur, that sort of thing. 2 months before our film started, Android Kunyapan had released, which is very close to Pioneer, is very close to Kanjangat, so we could absorb a few people from that movie also. So it was kind of a family atmosphere. They all kind of gelled well together. We didn't have any sort of workshop. We had a couple of days of sort of get to know each other sort of thing. That's about
I was about to ask the same.
Yeah,
I was about to ask.
we didn't have any sort of workshop. And the other thing that I did, I don't know. I mean, it worked for this film. I don't know if it will work for every film. None of them knew the script. No one was given the script. Nobody knew what was happening. They all figured out what the movie was. I mean, they knew bits and pieces. They could put things together and say, okay, this is sort of like a family drama with an element of, humor in it. And there's a father, daughter, that sort of things they could put together. But they didn't know the sequences or how the movie is going to start or what's going to happen in the movie. All those things. They only figured it out at IFFK when they saw the film.
Seriously, so I mean, I mean, that was your like an experimental strategy, or you like a...
The main thing was for us, we felt like they are already most of them. I mean, if you look at the cast, almost 80% of them are first timers. And rest of them, if you put together their screen time, it won't exceed probably 20-25 minutes. Because they've all done bits and pieces role, like a minute role here or 2 minutes, role in another movie, that sort of thing. So we didn't want to add extra burden by, giving them the whole script, and then, certain scenes they have to sort of memorize a long list of lines. And I didn't want to put those extra burden on them. And then we figured out, like, on the given day, let them come, sort of like, read the script, sort of get used to it, not think about what's going to happen tomorrow or what's there. And also, we didn't want to okay, you have this much amount of, a screen time, or the other person has this much amount of screen time. So all these things kind of, I don't know whether we did it purposely or not, but it naturally happened. And when we look at the end result, I think it worked in our advantage. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It really worked in your advantage. I mean, I think maybe that, I think maybe actors could, or the performers, actors could put in their part of, since the dialect is also like that,
Correct.
Maybe they also could contribute to the, the script, or the sense that, the dialogues, especially. I assume that they might also have been able to contribute to the dialogues or things like that, right?
Absolutely. So we had a standard, like a typical script where, we have sequence of dialogues written. There were certain things which were crucial that they couldn't miss it. They had to include as part of the, delivery. As long as they include that, they had the ability to speak the way they want, as long as it made sense for the rest of the film, So that sort of freedom, I think they didn't have to always be on the edge trying to memorize the lines. They could, twist and turn and say the words the way they felt it. And that obviously shows throughout the film, because if you look at the dialogue delivery, I think it's very, very natural and it doesn't feel forced. So that was a huge advantage, and they could speak the local slang. So we didn't have to, sort of train them or, try to get it right. So that was a huge advantage for us once again. So.
Right. Coming to the kind of a different layers in the film. I mean, obviously the first layer that anyone would notice is the sharp criticism, or a kind of critically looking at the patriarchy that we suffer sometimes, or we put up with. We just okay, we have to go along with it. There is nothing else that we can do in the family to suffer the patriarchy in families. Like, I mean, whether it is like a different stratas of different economic strata, or different class and caste, or whatever it is in Indian society, the patriarchy that we all suffer, it is very evident, and it is very obvious, and it is very clear in the film that it is critically looking at that patriarchy, and how women are kind of negotiating that patriarchy. I mean, sometimes there is no escape from that patriarchy, at least in their own lifetime, and how they are trying to negotiate their daily life through this patriarchy. And at the end of then the movie progresses, and then we see that the new generation, the children are they want to break away from the patriarchy or whatever. The kind of freedom that they are being denied. They want to they want that their power to choose. So coming to that thing, but at the same time, you are presenting that patriarchy as a, when it is being interpreted, we are coming to this patriarchy thing. But when you're, but at the same time, you were able to present that patriarchy in a very, in a funny yet very, the politics is properly inserted and properly injected into the character and the situation, the script and all. So while writing, what kind of thoughts in terms of this, when we are talking about the patriarchy, what kind of thoughts were running through your mind while writing the script in terms of when we talk about patriarchy?
Look, in general, as a person, I don't like to preach. The main reason I don't like to preach is because I don't like to listen someone else preaching to me, so that was the first goal when I was writing. I didn't want to sound too preachy anywhere, or I don't like to impose, my beliefs and my ideas onto somebody else, because, it's very difficult to put yourself in somebody else's situation and then sort of write for someone else, right? So that was the first criteria that I have, and I don't know if I'm always successful at it, but I try not to do that. So with keeping that in mind, we thought, the best way to sort of tackle a serious issue is say it in a way that people will enjoy hearing. And when you can make somebody be interested in something that you want to tell, I think half the job is done. I think usually what happens is, getting someone to sort of show interest in what you have to say is the hardest part. Once you get them in, then I think half the job is done. Then now you can probably get their attention a little better than, better than usual. So that's when we decided, okay, let's interject some humor into it. Let's take a serious subject and sort of mix it with some sort of humor, which is again current, and then tackle with that subject. That's what you see basically. If you look at the beginning of the film, a Shabarimala scene, I think with one line, she probably interprets the entire meaning of that whole subject. But at the same time, in the second half, we see the other side of her with the same subject, right? You see, you got what I'm trying to say, right? In the second half, when she's talking to, so you see exactly opposite of what she said in the first half. Because I've come across people like that. I've seen from both sides, in women who support and who oppose. So that's what I said. I don't like to put, my belief or my ideas onto someone else. People should be able to decide for their own. So we kept all these elements in mind, and that's when, then we started writing. So the ultimate goal was to make sure that, whatever we want to tell, we say it in a interesting way with very little word, and hopefully have as much impact as we can have as possible. And once again, coming back after the festival and talking to various people who watched the film, I think in some way we have succeeded in this, because, especially the crucial part, the ending, when it was getting into a spot where you thought, okay, where is it heading? I think then the whole thing U-turn, takes a U-turn, and then completely, goes off on a different tangent. And these are the things that we kind of worked hard on, worked hard to make sure that, we don't really end up, being one of those, sort of like, message or, message or agenda-driven film, so.
Yeah, true. I also like that tail end climax. That is a absolutely brilliant ending of the film with that recording that Facebook thing. It's like, it's fully loaded with what we have seen around and what we are seeing around regarding that Shabarimala issue, or the different discourses of common people, and how they are bouncing into bouncing into everyday everyday moments of patriarchy or that kind of thing, how they have bounced with that subject, how they are getting to, that closing part was really brilliant. I liked it very much.
Thanks.
And one question I have for you is that, I mean, it's not like a criticism or anything. It's just like an observation that I felt, is that that character, that Girish, that guy who thinks that our Suja is talking to him. It is, yeah, obviously it's funny, and it has its role in that character has that role in the course of the storyline and everything. I appreciate that, but at the same time, I felt that a little bit of conventional this thing of having a lesser in terms of looks, or like a lesser male guy by the side. It's not in the real conventional the formats of the cinema, but still I felt that
it's a bit over the top.
It's a little bit, yeah, I felt that. But
absolutely, I totally agree with it. Like, I mean, one of the first guys who saw the film in Trivandrum, the Bharadwaj Rangan, when he wrote the review, the kind of line he gave was, this film kind of fits somewhere between a Priyadarshan movie and new age dramedies, which is like very realistic drama comedies that Malayalam industry has been churning out in the past few years. And I couldn't agree more with him on that. The whole purpose of this film was to kind of make a wholesome entertainer. We had absolutely, like I said, we had absolutely no intention of I mean, let's say an event like IFFK, we didn't even think in the back of our mind that we are going to submit for a festival like this. COVID happened, we were bored. Somebody called us and said, why don't you enter IFFK? And that's how we entered IFFK. So coming to the subject, yes, in a festival like this, you see a movie and then you have a typical character like Girish, which is usually you see in many Malayalam movies, a character
with movie parts.
Yes, but it was kind of designed because, like I said, our intention with this movie is practically take it to theaters and entertain people. So I will not deny that fact. And we already knew that this character was slightly over the top compared to the rest of the character, which is very close to realism. And this was a decision that me and my Sriraj and a few guys were discussing back and forth. And in the end, we kind of thought, like, this works for us. The humor works for us. And then we just let it go and we went with it. But yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I can't disagree with that. So your observation.
Thank you. I mean, thank you for being so truthful. Yeah, that's just an observation. I would also confess that I enjoyed that, but at the same time, at the back of my mind, I was thinking that, hey, this is something coming from familiar. Thing, but coming
to we were trying to be very clever. We were trying to tick all the boxes. Okay, listen, these people, certain section of the crowd is going to love the film. I mean, when you look at the theater going crowd, one of their favorite character was Girish, and then you have another side which is purely festival sort of kind of people. They probably felt Girish was a little off. For their taste, but both of them, both kind of audience have something to take from this movie. So we were pretty clever from beginning. We want everyone to come and watch the film. So
yeah, and also I mean, as on a personal note, also I also noticed different different characters. Santosh, or the other guy, the guy who helps with the money, who was supposed to marry. Right. I mean, these different male characters you have very clearly and very successfully given as a good across different types of male ego.
Correct.
Different types of male ego getting hurt.
Absolutely.
And different. I like that. It is. In that sense, like the ego of the father, the son-in-law,
you get to see different shades.
Different shades of male ego being hurt and being pushed around and being sometimes it's hurt and want to fight back, the frustration and everything. So it was really and also I like that the fight between the father and the father duo and the son duo happening simultaneously.
Yeah, yeah.
It all connected very well, and I mean that's why and at the beginning I said that I really like that. I mean it has many layers, and really that's what makes your film or any film more enjoyable and
Right.
more. So that was really a very successful. I think it's successful writing and successful direction, and even also the kudos goes to the performer, the actors also. And I would like to, I mean, before concluding, I would like to also talk about that. I mean, that climax scene, the father. Yeah, okay. You want democracy? Okay, come. Everyone take a seat here, and who all with me and against me. See, here is the democracy is done and delivered. Um, it is very political. I mean, apparently it is like a outburst of the final outburst of the patriarch, wounded patriarch. Okay, I will sort this out now, and who's with me and who's not with me, and the democracy.
That's how. Yeah, but that's how most of the issues are tackled in real life, at least in our country, right? Like,
yeah.
is there a solid thought put through, especially if any sort of anything that we want to do in life, like let's say in terms of government, if there is a law or any sort of policies come, I don't think there is any thought put through. I mean, if you belong to a particular party, all of them are going to raise their hand, and if you are in the opposition party, all of them are going to put their hands down. There is not. I mean, usually you need to go through that policy as an individual and see how it helps. Because at the end of the day, these guys represent people, right? Is it going to help the people? But that thought is not put through, right? Like usually, it's like raise your hand. All belonging to the same sector are going to raise a hand, and then the other one's going to oppose. So that's how it happens here also. Like there are certain people who are with dad, whether he's right or wrong, they're going to put their hands up, and then certain characters can be easily bullied, and that's what happens with the son. So that sort of thing that we try to bring into what we see in real life out there, we sort of try to bring it to that particular scene. And to an extent, I think it works because it's basically a reflection of what happens in our society. So,
true. Yeah, I really like that scene very much, and it is well executed. The perform everything. I mean, it is, and it's like a very a good conclusion. I mean, the conclusion of the film and the whole thought process. And the kind of ideas that one was trying to discuss in the film is culminating in not that we are sending a message or anything, but it was a very powerful climax. I mean, I really liked it, and these are my. I mean, that I could bounce and the kind of feedback and the kind of observations that I thought I would ask to you. And great. I think this is going to be I'm sure that people are going to love this film.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, we have had a few calls, and we have had a few talks ever since we, had our screening in Trivandrum. In general, I think people are loving the film, and everybody has been asking, when it's going to come to theaters and stuff like that. I think it's a good theatrical experience because it's, like I said, it's not necessarily a typical festival kind of film. I think it's more of it has got a I don't know, for the lack of words, I'll say this, more of a commercial side to it, and I hope that we can get to theaters and hopefully share the movie with the rest of Kerala. So, and IFFK has given us that huge platform right now, coming and showing it in 4 different cities.
Yeah, especially 4 venues this year. Absolutely. It's like a pan Kerala.
Absolutely. I mean, we were we really got an amazing reception in Trivandrum. I couldn't make it to Trivandrum, but my colleagues were there. But then I made it to Cochin, and Cochin, it was a repeat, same thing. We got huge round of applause, and everybody loved it. And then we came to Talasheri, which is more like our homecoming,
very
right?
close to your home.
And it's very similar in culturally and area and language, and I was watching with the audience, and in Cochin and Trivandrum, the audience were involved from beginning of the movie, right? Every time a funny scene happens, they would laugh out loud, or every time a powerful statement has been made, they would applaud and be quite loud and hoot and all those things. But Talasheri crowd was really silent. Like there were very barely any laughs and a few chuckles here and there. All the scenes, all the comedy scenes that worked in the other two places, we were not getting that big of a laugh here. And I'm like, I'm screwed, my hometown people are not gonna like it. People are not loving it.
Fun out of
so we were like sitting there. I was sitting with one of my assistants, and we were like looking at each other, and I'm like, this is bad. Every high has a low, and this is our low, And then the movie ended, and there was a huge eruption. Like it's almost like they were all holding it back, and they wanted to do it at once. And I was like, okay, fine, we are back then, So that was quite funny. It was for an hour and a half of difficulty we had just sitting and watching there, And we have seen the movie so many times, so we are not enjoying as much as we have in the audience are enjoying. So every scene started. Like, is it working now? No. Every comedy thing, it's not working anymore, because nobody is laughing. So that sort of insecurity started creeping in. But luckily, at the end, I think it all worked out for us. So
great, and we are also happy that your film has been part of this edition of IFFK, and we wish you all the success for this film, and we are looking forward for more films from
Absolutely.
As a director or writer, and we hope to meet you another edition with another film. And from the team IFFK, we wish you all the success for the film.
Thank you. And like I said, I've never been to IFFK. I've heard about IFFK from a very young age. I've never made it to IFFK before because, like you said, I live on the other end of Kerala, and you guys usually have the festival at the bottom of. Absolutely, and it's too much of a distance. So I've never been able to attend, but I've always held the festival as one of the top festivals in India because of the history and not only history, and it's usually the affinity the people of Kerala has towards this festival. It's almost like a sort of like an iconic thing for us, so this is the first time we entered, and it's a huge honor when we got selected, and we were like, wow. And then being able to attend the festival and sort of like meet your team and the rest of you guys, and the kind of hospitality, especially in these times, the way it's been hosted, I think that's sort of like a true testament to people of our state, and it's a wonderful event, and I think it brought back a lot of joy that has been taken away for the last year or so from especially from the creative minds. It was lovely to see, and I'm very, very privileged to be part of this festival. So
thank you, Senna, and thank you. So we will speak and meet again very soon.
Sure. I'll catch up with you guys. Thank you.
Bye.